Have you ever been fired for doing the right thing? For standing up against toxic leadership? I have. But what happened next shocked not just me, but the entire industry. When I was fired on a Friday afternoon after 5 years of dedication, I never expected that by Monday morning, my entire team would walk out the door with me. And I certainly never imagined how dramatically that decision would change all of our lives, and ultimately bring down one of the most promising startups in Boston. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share might just be the most satisfying workplace revenge story you'll ever hear. Welcome to Dismissal Diaries, where we share real stories of workplace justice that will leave you speechless. If you enjoy hearing about employees standing up to toxic management, hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss our weekly tales of workplace karma. I still remember that morning like it was yesterday. The sun was streaming through the windows of our open-plan office in downtown Boston, reflecting off the sleek glass buildings outside. It was a beautiful spring day, the kind that makes you want to play hooky and spend the afternoon in Boston Common. But there I was, at my desk by 7:30, preparing for our team's 9 o'clock presentation to the board. My name is Rachel Collins, and until that Friday, I was the director of operations at Neurovance, a healthcare tech startup that had secured $45 million in Series B funding just 6 months earlier. We were developing an AI-powered platform that could predict patient readmission risks with 93% accuracy, something that could revolutionize hospital resource management and save countless lives. I'd been with the company since it was just 5 people working out of a cramped incubator space. I'd sacrificed weekends, relationships, and probably a good portion of my mental health to help build it into the 100-person operation it had become. My team of 12 operations specialists was the backbone of the company. We kept everything running while the engineers built the product, and the sales team made promises they couldn't keep. The trouble began 3 months before that fateful Friday, when Marcus Wheeler was brought in as the new CEO. Marcus came from a Fortune 500 pharmaceutical company, with the kind of impressive resume and connections that our CEO, David, believed would help us mature as an organization and prepare for the next phase of growth. From day one, Marcus made it clear that he didn't value the startup culture we'd built. He referred to our collaborative approach as inefficient and our flexible work arrangements as unprofessional. He introduced rigid reporting structures, mandatory 9-to-5 office hours, goodbye work from home Wednesdays, and began tracking bathroom breaks on the pretext of productivity optimization. But what bothered me most was how he treated my team. These were brilliant, dedicated professionals who had been performing at exceptional levels. Suddenly, they were being micromanaged, second-guessed, and spoken to like children. "Rachel, your team is soft," Marcus told me during one of our one-on-ones, his voice dripping with condescension. "They're used to the kumbaya startup mentality. That's fine for the early days, but we're playing in the big leagues now." I pushed back as diplomatically as I could. "With all due respect, Marcus, this team has consistently exceeded every KPI we've set. Their satisfaction scores from internal clients are off the charts. The culture we've built is why we're able to attract talent away from companies that pay twice what we do." He leaned back in his chair, his custom Italian suit perfectly pressed, and smiled in that way that never reached his eyes. "The board brought me in to professionalize this organization. Changes need to be made. Either get on board or get out of the way." For the next 2 months, I tried to shield my team while also adapting to the new reality. I sat through endless meetings where Marcus presented best practices that contradicted everything that had made us successful. I watched as morale plummeted, not just in my team but across the company. Employees who had once stayed late because they were passionate about our mission now watched the clock, rushing out at 5 on the dot. The kitchen, which had once been a hub of cross-departmental collaboration, fell silent. People ate at their desks, heads down, earbuds in. The breaking point came when Marcus announced a new performance improvement plan for 30% of the company, including 3 members of my team who had consistently been top performers. That Thursday night, I stayed late preparing data that proved my team's excellence. Efficiency metrics, client feedback, project completion rates, The numbers spoke for themselves. I compiled everything into a presentation, rehearsed my talking points, and was ready to make my case to Marcus and David the next morning. Little did I know, the decision had already been made. Friday morning, I arrived to find an email summoning me to a 7:30 a.m. meeting with HR, Marcus, and David. My stomach dropped. These early morning meetings with HR were never good news. I walked into the conference room, and the atmosphere hit me like a physical force. David couldn't meet my eyes. Marcus sat with a slight smile, scrolling through his phone. Jen from HR had that practiced neutral expression that HR professionals perfect for difficult conversations. "Rachel, thank you for joining us," David began, his voice strained. "This isn't easy, but we've decided to restructure the operations department. As part of this restructuring, we're eliminating your position, effective immediately." The blood rushed to my face. Eliminating my position. What does that mean for my team? "Your team will report directly to Marcus for now," David said, still not meeting my eyes. "We appreciate your contributions, but the company needs to move in a different direction." Marcus finally looked up from his phone. "It's nothing personal, Rachel, just business. The severance package is generous 6 months salary, extended health benefits. Jen will walk you through the details." I sat there, stunned, as Jen slid a manila folder across the table. Inside was a severance agreement, a non-disclosure agreement, and a non-disparagement clause. "We'll need you to clean out your desk immediately," Jen said softly. "I'll escort you to collect your personal belongings." 5 years of my life, countless 60-hour weeks, missing my sister's wedding to handle a critical system implementation, all ended in a 15-minute meeting on a Friday morning. As Jen walked me to my desk, I saw my team watching with wide, concerned eyes. I wanted to explain, to say goodbye properly, but Jen steered me directly to my desk and stood guard as I robotically packed my plants, photos, and the company award I'd received just 2 months earlier for exemplary leadership. "Can I at least say goodbye to my team?" I asked. "It's company policy to minimize disruption," Jen replied, looking genuinely apologetic. "A company-wide email will be sent explaining the organizational changes." 20 minutes later, I was standing on the sidewalk outside the building, clutching a cardboard box of belongings, tears streaming down my face, despite my best efforts to maintain composure. 5 years of my life ended with the swipe of my access card being deactivated. I didn't go home right away. I couldn't face sitting alone in my apartment with nothing but my thoughts. Instead, I walked to a nearby coffee shop, ordered the largest latte they had, and found a quiet corner to process what had just happened. By noon, my phone was blowing up with text messages from my team. "What happened?" Texted Maya, my senior operations manager. "Is it true they fired you?" Wrote Ethan, our systems specialist. "Marcus just called an emergency ops team meeting for 2 p.m. Everyone's freaking out," reported Sam, who'd been with me since day one. I didn't know what to say. The non-disparagement agreement I'd been asked to sign was still sitting unsigned in that manila folder. But I owed these people, my people, some kind of explanation. I arranged to meet them after work at the Garrison, a pub a few blocks from the office that had been our Friday tradition for years. By 6 o'clock, all 12 members of my former team had arrived, faces grim, eyes questioning. "They're saying it was a restructuring," said Maya as she slid into the booth beside me. "But that's BS. Everyone knows you built that department from nothing." I took a deep breath. "Guys, I have to be careful what I say. They've offered a severance package, but it comes with strings attached." "Non-disparagement?" asked Sam, who'd been through a corporate firing before. When I nodded, he cursed under his breath. "What happened in the meeting today?" I asked, changing the subject. They exchanged glances. Maya spoke up. "Marcus announced he's taking direct control of operations. He's implementing a new accountability system, time tracking software, daily metrics reports, and weekly individual performance reviews. He also canceled the flexible schedule program," added Ethan, and hinted that the remote work option might be next. "That's not all," said Lisa, our client liaison. He's reassigning 3 of us to different departments. Said it would optimize resource allocation. Let me guess, I said, you, Sam, and Ethan. They were my 3 strongest performers, and the most outspoken about Marcus's methods. They nodded grimly. Classic divide and conquer, said Sam. Break up the strongest bonds in the team. As the night progressed and the drinks flowed, their stories became more alarming. Marcus had already been meeting individually with junior team members, asking leading questions about my leadership. He'd been laying the groundwork for my removal for weeks. He asked me if I thought you were resistant to change, said Tyler, our newest team member. I said no, but he kept pushing, suggesting that you were holding the team back from evolving. Around midnight, Maya, who had been uncharacteristically quiet for the past hour, suddenly spoke up. What if we all quit? The table fell silent. Seriously, she continued. What if we all handed in our resignations on Monday? What would happen to the company? Sam leaned forward. Operations would collapse. No one else knows our systems, our processes. The Denver implementation would fail, added Lisa. The compliance audit would be a disaster. The board would freak out, said Ethan. We're 6 weeks away from the Series C funding round. An operations collapse now would tank the valuation. They looked at each other, a mix of fear and excitement on their faces. Then they looked at me. Rachel, we're not asking you to tell us what to do, said Maya carefully. But we need to know, if we did this, would you help us land on our feet? Could you use your connections to help us find new positions? I felt a surge of emotion, gratitude for their loyalty, fear for their financial security, and yes, a small, vindictive thrill at the thought of Marcus and David facing the consequences of their actions. I can't tell you what to do, I said finally. This is your livelihood we're talking about. But yes, if you decide to take a stand, I will do everything in my power to help you. My network is your network. My references are yours. Whatever happens, we're in this together. The weekend was a blur of phone calls, LinkedIn messages, and hastily arranged coffees with former colleagues and industry contacts. I reached out to everyone I knew who might be hiring, explaining that I had a team of exceptional operators potentially coming onto the market. By Sunday evening, I had lined up preliminary interviews for all 12 team members with various companies in our network. Several startups were excited at the prospect of bringing on experienced operators who already worked well together. Meanwhile, the team had been coordinating via a Signal group chat. They drafted identical resignation letters, short, professional, without specific complaints that could violate any non-disparagement agreements. They agreed to deliver them simultaneously at 9 a.m. Monday morning, directly to Marcus, with copies to HR and David. I barely slept Sunday night, alternating between panic that I was facilitating a mass career suicide and a strange calm certainty that this was one of those pivotal moments that define a professional life. Monday morning, I received a single text from Maya at 9:15 a.m. It's done. Then silence. For 3 hours, I heard nothing, imagining chaos unfolding at the Neurovance offices. At 12:23 p.m., my phone rang. It was David. Rachel, he said, his voice tight with controlled anger. What did you do? What are you talking about, David? I kept my voice neutral. Don't play dumb. The entire operations team just quit. Every single one of them. Same letter, same time. This has your fingerprints all over it. I didn't tell anyone to quit, David, but I'm not surprised. That team was exceptional, and they were treated like they were disposable. There was a long pause. The board is meeting in an hour. Marcus is saying we should sue you for tortious interference. I felt a chill, but kept my voice steady. I didn't interfere with anything, David. I didn't breach any contract. I haven't even signed your severance agreement. Another pause. Would you be willing to come back? The Denver implementation is in 2 weeks. Without your team, we're dead in the water. Now it was my turn to pause. Under what conditions? Name them, he said quickly, too quickly. He was desperate. Marcus goes. I get his position, his salary, and a seat on the board. My team comes back with 10% raises across the board, guaranteed flexible work arrangements, and written job security provisions. And I want it all in writing, drafted by my lawyer, not yours. That's extortion, he sputtered. That's negotiation, I corrected. Call me after your board meeting. The call came at 4:30 p.m. The board had sided with Marcus. They would not meet my conditions. They would find other ways to handle the operations crisis. I wished David luck. He would need it. Over the next 2 weeks, the impact of the mass resignation rippled through the company and the broader Boston tech community. The Denver implementation failed spectacularly. The client went public with their frustration. Other clients began asking pointed questions about Neurovant's stability. The Series C funding round was postponed indefinitely. 3 weeks later, Marcus quietly left the company. The official statement cited personal reasons, but industry insiders knew the truth. Meanwhile, my former team landed on their feet. 8 of them were hired as a unit by a competing healthcare tech company, brought on specifically to implement the systems and processes we had developed at Neurovant. The others found positions at various startups in our network, often with better compensation and work conditions than they'd had before. As for me, I took a month off to decompress. I hiked the Appalachian Trail, read novels instead of business books, and slept more than 4 hours a night, for the first time in years. Then the calls started coming. First from recruiters, then from founders and CEOs directly. The story of what happened at Neurovant had spread, and far from damaging my reputation, it had enhanced it. I was now known as a leader people would follow off a cliff, a leader who inspired the kind of loyalty that money couldn't buy. 6 weeks after being fired, I accepted a position as CEO of Medimatrix, a series of healthcare analytics company founded by 2 brilliant doctors who understood that culture and people were their most valuable assets. They gave me free rein to build the operations team my way, and I brought on 5 of my former team members who were eager to work together again. 1 year later, Neurovant filed for bankruptcy. Their revolutionary AI platform was acquired at a fraction of its potential value by a larger healthcare company. David founded another startup, this time with a focus on ethical leadership and sustainable culture as core values. Marcus landed at another Fortune 500 company, where, last I heard, he was still pushing his brand of corporate efficiency. Some people never learn. As for me and my team, Medimatrix went public 18 months after I joined, valuing our employee stock options at 17 times their grant price. We built something valuable, sustainable, and human. The lesson I learned from all of this wasn't about revenge, although I won't deny there was satisfaction in watching the consequences unfold. It was about the power of genuine leadership and authentic human connections in the workplace. In a world increasingly driven by metrics and artificial intelligence, the truly irreplaceable element remains human relationships, the trust, loyalty, and shared purpose that transform a group of individuals into a team. If you're a leader, remember, your people are watching how you treat others. They're noticing if you prioritize numbers over humans, short-term gains over long-term culture. And in today's connected world, talent has options. Treat people like they're disposable, and you may find yourself the one who's been disposed of. If you're part of a team suffering under toxic leadership, know this: your skills have value, your dignity matters. And sometimes, taking a stand together can change not just your workplace, but an entire industry. That's my story from fired on Friday to witnessing a company-changing walkout on Monday. If you've experienced something similar, or have your own workplace revenge story, share it in the comments below. I read every comment and respond to as many as I can. If you found this story satisfying, don't forget to subscribe to Dismissal Diaries for more tales of workplace justice served. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Until next time, remember your worth, stand up for what's right, and never let toxic leadership diminish your spirit. Thanks for watching.